This is one of the craziest stories I have ever heard. In 2018, a 52-year-old native doctor by the name of Jacob Alonge was arrested for sexually abusing his teenage daughter, Gift Alonge. He was charged to court, and while the case was going on, he said something that would change everything. You see, as a young child, Gift grew up with her father, Jacob, and her mother, who we really don't know her name, but she's not so much in the picture other than the fact that she had some mental challenges. It's not clear if Gift had other siblings, but what we do know is Jacob, who is also a native doctor, somewhere along the line began forcing himself on Gift. This continued on to the point where Gift, as a little child, thought it was normal. Eventually, as she grew older, she started realizing that something was wrong somewhere. As a teenager, she may have gotten pregnant about 3 to 4 times, and in those times, her father Jacob would make her remove the pregnancy. Somewhere in 2017, she got pregnant again, and this time her father told her that she should get rid of it as usual. But unfortunately for Jacob, Gift had already realized that this was wrong. Immediately, she went to a relative and told the relative everything. Now, this is the problem. While the father, Jacob, was doing all of this to Gift, he had a way of making her keep her mouth shut. He had threatened her multiple times not to tell anybody, not necessarily threatened per se, more like brainwashed her into thinking that this was fine and letting her know that if she told anyone, she would die. It was alleged that Jacob would cut hairs from her pubic area, including her head, put it in a lock, and tell her that this is a symbol of you keeping your mouth shut, that if you don't, you would die. Pretty much. But 2017 comes along, she is pregnant again. Jacob tells her to remove it. She doesn't think it's okay. She tells a relative, and the relative pretty much takes it up to the community, where he tells the whole community in Akoko Edo local government area in Edo State, where this whole incident took place. When the community heard what had happened to Gift, they were not surprised because they had their suspicion. Many people had suspected for a long while that Gift was most likely being sexually abused, because for some, she was the only girl living with her father, who they realized that the mother is mentally unstable. So people had their suspicion, but they could not confront it because Jacob Alonge was a notorious native doctor, more like a powerful witch doctor, and because of that alone, they kept their distance from the man. So when Gift comes out with the story along with the relative, it made sense. It was quickly reported to the traditional ruler of that community, and instantly Jacob was picked up by the community boys. He was taken to the presence of the traditional ruler, where he admitted to everything Gift had said. He admitted to sexually abusing her, he admitted to getting her pregnant and making her abort the pregnancy. And he admitted it in a very nonchalant way. He wasn't exactly remorseful. He did not deny, he just said, yeah, it happened. Yes, she's right, I've been doing this all this while. Eventually, the community leaders handed the case to the police. Jacob was taken in by the Edo State Police Command. He was arrested, and when he was brought before the police and asked if he did what he's been accused of, he admitted to doing it. In 2018, an NGO named Braveheart Initiative took up the case. They carried it on their head and vowed to get justice for Gift Alonge. They pretty much took her into their custody to try to find her a better home. She had relatives from her mother's side who were willing to take her, who were willing to house her, who were willing to show her the love. The relative that she told to was also from her mother's side. I guess those are the only people she could trust. All this while this whole thing is blowing up, she is still pregnant. She's still keeping the pregnancy. The NGO were with her all the step of the way. They provided her health care, they gave her food, money. They were pretty much just taking care of her, at the same time making sure that Jacob is taken to court, charged and sentenced. They were pretty much keen on punishing Jacob for what he did to Gift. Eventually, Jacob was taken to court and he was arraigned, and his charges were read to him, in which he pled guilty. Now, this is where things started taking left. Maybe if Jacob was as foresighting as he claimed, he would have pleaded not guilty because of what was about to happen. However, he pled guilty and admitted to sexually assaulting the daughter. They even searched the house and saw the bags, or the locked bag where he kept her pubic hair. So there were so many things that they found in his possession that corroborated the fact that he was doing everything that he had been accused of. Now, after that court hearing, after being read his charges and he pleading guilty, somewhere along the line, whether on his way being taken to the police station or outside the courtroom, or when the women from the NGO and other people were confronting him and telling him that you're a pig, you're a monster, you will go down for this, we'll make sure that you get the maximum sentence, Jacob responded and told them that you people better be careful to testify against me, because it would not end well for you people. Whether this was a threat or this was a premonition, it was stated. He was direct at anyone who was going to testify against him in court that something bad would happen to them if they did. And nobody took it seriously. Nobody really cared. It just like, it sounded like a bluff. Unfortunately, on the 16th of January 2019, when Gift, along with two ladies from the NGO, along with that her relative and a few other people, were on their way to court, they were taking Gift to court to continue the case. It's not clear at which stage this was, whether this was the stage for part of the hearing, or this was the time for sentencing, or whether this was just one of those times where she was coming to finally testify her own side of the story, because the court pretty much gave her time to have a baby, heal from delivery, and pretty much get herself back mentally to the point where she can finally come and speak boldly about what happened to her, because this was traumatic. So I guess the court stalled the case for her to get better. And when she did, the NGO picked her up along with her relative, and Gift was headed to Benin City to go to court to testify against her father. Unfortunately, on their way to Benin, they were all involved in a motor accident. It was said a trailer ran over them, killing every single person in that vehicle. Gift, the baby, some sources claimed, her relative, the one she told about the whole thing that exposed it, and then the two ladies from the NGO who were pushing for her to testify against her father. These were the people that Jacob had already confronted few years before, that if they testified against him, something bad would happen. And unfortunately, just like he said, something bad did happen to them on their way to testify against him in court. Every one of them died in that accident, including Gift. And when this came out, people were surprised. The NGO did put out a statement saying it's a coincidence, that they don't believe the man did anything, that it was just an unfortunate situation. When Jacob learned that his daughter, along with all the other people who were coming to testify against him, had died in an accident, he came back to court and decided to backtrack on his plea. He then told the court that, yeah, I want to plead not guilty, because right now, the one person who could testify against him is dead. The second person whom she told is dead, and the other women who had all the details and information that was given to them are all dead. So this was his opportunity to backtrack. But unfortunately for him, He had already admitted on multiple grounds. He had already admitted to the traditional rulers, to his community, to the police. Even in court, he had admitted, he had made confessions, he had written statements. And with those alone, the judge was still able to find Jacob guilty. He was sentenced to about 27 years per se. It wasn't necessarily life. When he was sentenced, he was going to do it consecutively. According to what was said, he was supposed to go through this consecutively, which would mean he would have spent a total of 14 years in prison. However, during the NSAS protests, he picked up the opportunity and was among those people who broke out of prison and ran away. For 4 years, he was hiding in his community, living a free life until people routed him out, and he was then sent back to jail. He was sent back to prison in May of 2024. That was where his community people, I think he went to another community to hide, not the same place where he was from. He probably went to his mother's side, just another place, another neighborhood. But, he had 4 years of freedom before he went back to jail again. By this time, he would most likely be 60 years old. I don't know if he's still serving 14 years, which I think, in my opinion, is too small. But if he's there, by the time he's like 70, he'll be most likely out. Rumors had it that he most likely made his wife go mad so that he can be able to have uninterrupted access to abusing his daughter. But that was it. When this story broke out, many people believed that he had the power. He was the one who was behind the accident, and that was pretty much it. Some people don't believe it. Some people say it was just an unfortunate coincidence. What do I think? Well, I just think it's mysterious. If it's one thing if one or two people dies and then maybe the other people are there to continue the case. But for every single person that he was addressing that statement to die months or years after he had made it, especially on the day they were coming to testify against him, then it's pretty suspicious, in my opinion. I'm like, okay, wow, I don't know what to feel. It could be a coincidence, but a very specific one. However, you guys let me know what you think.